Let's give Brother Brandon a round of applause, everybody. So once again, when you see us out there, don't roll that window up. Act like you don't see us. Turn the radio up. One of the advantages, before we bring Brother Rob, is that final call, we do call fact checks. The media is controlled by corporate. So they just throw things out there. How can you have a 24-hour news cycle without investigating the story? That is called, that's called irresponsible journalism. Where you're just throwing things out there, then when breaking news comes, it means that somebody found the facts. That's when they go to breaking news. But throw it out there to the people just to keep them on their toes. So let's be mindful of that. When you see that paper, when you go to work, you have leverage, because guess what? You're dealing with actual facts. That's your leverage. Everything in there deals with people, our people nationally and internationally. So that's your leverage. So use the leverage that you have. There's only a $2 charity. That $2 charity, like the brother said, you pass it on to somebody else. The knowledge is shared. It doesn't belong to us. Okay, we just happen to be in the right place in the right time. So speaking of knowledge, I'd like to bring our dear brother Rob up, which he's going to electrify us with his knowledge and his knowledge of economics. And sometimes this is what we have to do. We have to plant seeds with one another. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce my dear brother, Brother Rob Hall, to the podium.
How's everybody doing? Welcome, welcome. It's great to see all the faces out here. Of course, I thank Brother Vaughn. He's just an amazing brother. His passion for what he does comes through, you know, and sometimes it's just like we need more leaders like that who are going to call us to come and do things and participate in things that are edifying, that are enlightening, that help us to grow, that help us to become, to help us to develop. And Brother Vaughn is a soldier in that army and participating in that war. And I just want to give him a hand. Y'all give Brother Vaughn a hand for the work that he's done. I'm absolutely moved by the movie that we saw, the documentary. I'm moved, and honestly, on one level, I'm ashamed that I had not made myself more aware and better understood what those black families went through in that community on that fateful event in 1921. It really isn't that far long ago. It's not even 100 years. And I'm telling you, 100 years after that night, those nights, we ought to show up in Greenwood and show out, as they say. And say 100 years later, we're still standing here because what was happening is that there was an economic lion. A lion, a powerful lion was there in Tulsa because of cooperative economics, because we didn't have any choice but then to rely upon one another. We couldn't go to the white dentist, so we developed our children and became dentists, and they took care of us, and we supported those businesses, and we grew. We couldn't go to their supermarket, so we created our own. We became self-actualized as a community, and what we had was the equivalent of an economic lion, and the hyenas who were around them saw what was going on, and they came together and killed the lion. But what they did not realize was that the lion had cubs. That's right. And if you know anything about a lion cub, you understand that a lion cub eventually becomes a lion again. Okay? And not only, if you know anything about reproduction, when the cubs become lions again and lions get to reproducing, you don't just have a lion or just cubs, you end up with a pride. And 100 years later, what we ought to demonstrate in Tulsa is that the pride has come back. Amen? Amen. See, I said, Brother Bobby, he's a Christian. Brother, I said it to me on Facebook. Are you with the nation? No, I'm not with the nation. But yes, I'm with the nation. Because whoever is not my enemy is my friend. And I am aligned with the objectives that the members of the nation have to edify, enlighten, and help our people to grow. Because, let me tell you something, I'm personally upset that we spend as much time as we did asking folks to give $20 to a worthy cause. Less than $20. Well, y'all spend $200 to go see Beyonce. It shouldn't take no time for anybody to say, $20 for what? Here, take that, thank you. That's as long as that should take. Because the reality is that the need is deep and it's great, and our true growth and understanding and economic development is not simply a matter of raising capital. It's not just about brick and mortar development, because you saw on the video that can be burned down. But what cannot be burned down is the human development. The understanding between your ears cannot be taken away. And if there was anything that moved me about what I saw, it was not just the destruction, it was not just the suffering, it was not just the pain, it was the resilience, it was the comeback, it was the strength, it was the determination, it was the fact that you can burn and bomb our entire community, but you cannot burn and bomb our resolve. You cannot burn and bomb our understanding. You cannot take away from us those things that we have invested in on our inside. Yeah. Because a lawyer whose practice is burned down can put up a tent and he's still a lawyer. Amen. Take it to the Supreme Court. I'm still a lawyer. I don't need a building. I am the building. That's right. And so the first thing we have to understand, if we want to understand economic development and growth in our community, is that we are the building. We are the wealth. We are the richness. We are the resources. And the first thing we have to do is invest in ourselves, invest in our children. Invest in these young men and women and their minds. It does not make sense for our children to know how to do the stanky leg, but they don't understand how to do math. Wow. Or they don't understand how to read. And they're coming home showing you how to nay-nay. Okay. But the Pythagorean theorem is lost. We have to invest in our children. That's the first point of economic development. I'm going to tell you something about myself. I didn't come from wealthy parents. I grew up in projects welfare, on the welfare, in foster homes. I understand what it is to be hungry. I remember being 5 or 6 years old, living in a housing project with a single mother without food to eat. But what amazed me was when we would borrow some money and go to the store, I'd see food all through the aisles. And the question for a 5-year-old is, why can't we eat? There's food everywhere. Yeah. And every answer my mother gave me had something to do with this thing called money. So at that age, I became, what's the word I'm looking for? Beyond curious. I had this fixation, this fascination. What is money? Because this is the difference between joy and pain. This is the difference between eating and going hungry. I think I need to understand this thing. All right. And the result of that struggle has put me in a place where now at 43, I understand economics on a level that's a little bit beyond my average peer. It was driven by that pain of a 6-year-old. And I don't want other children to have that pain. And so, we talked about the Black Wall Street. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Hall Street Journal. Okay, hallstreetjournal.com. We're developing as a media entity because the media is important. The number one published publication print publication in the country, in the world, is the Wall Street Journal. The number one online publication in the world is the Wall Street Journal. So but the problem is that we tend to speak above people. It tends to speak in language that people don't understand. It's a code, it's a vernacular that is used to keep certain people from understanding what's being said.
That's right.
So they'll say, I just bought 100 contracts of Qualcomm because it's been consolidating for 5 weeks and it just broke out on strong volume.
That's right. That's what it says.
And they know you do not understand. Okay? So we need publications and information that comes in the form and in a language that is more readily palatable, because really they're not saying anything complex. All they're saying is that the price of Qualcomm has kind of stayed the same for the last 5 weeks, and the price just jumped up because a lot of people are buying it, so I bought some too in hopes that I can make some money as it's continuing to go up. That's all they said, but they said it in a way you're not supposed to get this. They talk about things like quantitative easing, knowing you don't understand macroeconomics, that you don't understand the Federal Reserve System, and you don't understand that they've been committing a fraud on the entire U.S. economy, and that it's really all propped up, and they're basically printing money and putting it out into the system and trying to loosen up the dollar and trying to stoke the economy to make you think things are all right, when in fact the chickens have not yet finished coming home to roost. So they hide it. In the language, they hide it. So I don't want to, I know I don't have a lot of time, but because I want to get into a Q&A, I want to get into substantive discussion. Because a lot of times we have leaders who talk about economics and economic growth and what we need to do and how we need to work together, but we don't get into details. Everyone knows what we need to do, but no one's really talking about how. We don't have real substantive understanding of economics. And we're not communicating that to our children or even one another. And so organization of capital is important, but if you organize capital and you get funding and you don't understand capital and you don't understand how to employ it and you don't understand how to manage it, you run into problems. You run into financial problems, legal problems, social problems. Trust me, I understand. I've been there. I've raised millions of dollars in my career. I've purchased millions of dollars in properties in my career. I've dealt with securities laws, run afoul of. Let me tell you something. There is no more regulated industry in America than the banking industry. The banking industry kills more trees than any industry you can name. It's highly regulated because folks understand that this is the key. This is the key to the equality that y'all crying about. So it's just like the folks in Tulsa said, we don't want y'all to build Greenwood, so we can't say that out loud, but what we can do is pass an ordinance with stiff controls on the zoning requirements to build this house and outlaw certain types of activities, and thus I've outlawed all of your resilience, all of your desire. I'm going to do all that to you. But thank God we had folks like Mr. Franklin who argued the point, and we got an opportunity to rebuild. And then they came back later and passed using political authority and allowed that road to go right through. So one of the other things we have to understand when we talk about economic development is there is a nexus between economic power and political power. If you think that the only power in this country is economic, I'm going to tell you there's only one thing that can equalize economic power, and that is political power. I don't care who Bill Gates thinks he is. If politically I say you have violated the laws of this nation, Mr. Gates, guess what happens to Mr. Gates tonight? He can go straight to jail. All his things can be taken up by use of political power. It's always tied together, which is why corporate America lobbies political America, because they go hand in hand. So let me give you something specific, and I'm going to open up the floor. I'm initiating a program again that I worked on over a decade ago. I got a program that's called that I'm a senior business development consultant. I'm called the Total Fund. How many of y'all live in Washington D.C.? Anybody here live in D.C.? Anybody here know folks who live in D.C.? Let me tell you about the power from politics that resides in D.C. Tenants in D.C. We talked about owning land. Tenants in D.C. have the first right of refusal to purchase their properties. If a apartment building is being sold, the tenants have the first right to buy it. So if I walk up with a whole bunch of money and say I want to buy it, and we agree the price is going to be $2 million, the tenants have the first right to come up with the $2 million in Washington, D.C. and buy the building themselves. Now, that is political authority. That was put in place in 1980, signed in by Mary Barrett. And without any money, these tenants have site control of millions upon millions of dollars of property in D.C., and most of them don't realize it. And even if now the law requires that when the sale is impending, they must be notified. They have to give them a notice and say, we're about to sell your building. You have the right to buy it first. If you want it, let us know. Y'all gonna have to organize as a not-for-profit organization and say you want to buy your building. If you don't, in X amount of time, your option will expire worthless and you go on up the street and continue to be poor and we ain't gonna worry about you no more. Because they know if you're struggling to pay your rent and I put a number like $10, $20 million in front of you, you're going to say, oh, we ain't got that. And you know we can't hardly organize around a lemonade stand, so how are we going to organize around buying the whole building? Oh, that sounds crazy. We're going to start arguing immediately. You still owe me $40. How are we going to do this? You better get my $40 first or we can't do nothing. Okay, because we like to get into petty stuff. We got $40 million on the table we want to argue about. Okay? Holla if you hear me. You understand what I'm saying? I'm from the project, so I like to keep it real. Okay? You know, I got to Howard University. I've been blessed to get a little education, but I'm from the hood. So I'm just going to keep it like that. You know, I can give you Richard Cunningham or I can give you Nino Brown. Who you want. Okay. No. But the point is that they have this power. And they don't understand it. So what we're doing is organizing tenant associations to purchase their properties. And I'm not even waiting for the property to go up for sale. Why?
Because it ain't going to be ready for the sale.
Because investors, look, say again.
They ain't going to be ready if you wait.
Well, they may not be ready. Yeah, well, let me tell you something. Do investors wait for somebody to say the property's up for sale? Or do they just walk up and say, let me get that?
That's right.
So that's what I'm doing. I'm walking up to them, calling on and saying, look, we want to get that up off you. Listen, you can't sell it without going through us anyway. So you might as well come see us right now. We want ours. This is our community. We've been living here for 20, 30, 40 years. Okay? We're going to do this. We're going to buy this. Because there's another thing. Politically, we have the authority in Washington, D.C. to conduct something called a condominium conversion. Anybody here understand how powerful condominium conversion is? Okay, condominium conversion, it probably creates more equity than any home and garden TV show you ever seen due to a house. Why? Because an apartment building might be 20 apartments is one thing. It's bought and sold as one thing. And one thing only has so much value because the market of people who can buy that one thing is small. But if I take that apartment building and I break it up into little pieces and say it's not one thing, it's 20 things. Each one of those things immediately becomes more valuable, inherently more valuable. It can be, I don't have to buy the whole building. You mean I can just buy this one little apartment right here in the upper left-hand corner right there? That could be mine. And so as an apartment, it may only be worth $50,000. As a condominium, it may be instantly worth $150,000 or $250,000. Or in DC, where the median price of a home is $555,000 plus. The average cost per square foot is $469 plus. You're talking about a $450,000 one thing. If it's properly developed. But they know that we don't organize and we don't have those capabilities, so I created the Total Fund, and that's what we do. We help people to do it. We actually have done it since 2004. I acquired a building for $1 million with nothing down and walked away from 7 with $250,000 in cash. Starting off by using the authority, the rights, the capabilities of the tenants who are in the building. And that law still is in place. So with that, if you want to go to topafund.org, reach out, check us out. We just got the site up. We're going back in. I'm already negotiating with an owner of a building over in Southeast.
What's it called, Brother Rob?
Topafund.org. T-O-P-A fund. .com. Topafund.com. I said .org because we're almost like it's a crusade. It's not just a business. See, we can do well while we're doing good. But part of the good we have to do is not be afraid of each other, come and connect with each other, talk to each other, be honest with each other, educate each other, uplift and edify each other. It's not just about the money.
Correct.
It's about creating wealth and then having that wealth which we create remain in our community. Because if one of the things that we have to do, because you know if that property is broken up into little pieces and it becomes something worth $350,000, you know we can't afford $350,000, right? We just was paying $800 a month rent. How are we going to pay the mortgage on $350,000? We can't do that.
That's right.
We can't do that. It just don't work. The debt to income ratios don't work. So if I convert it into a condominium, I got a problem. I've created all that equity, but I've also pushed out people because they can't afford it.
That's right.
So let's deal with that directly. How do you help somebody who needs to buy something for $350,000 who can only afford $150,000 as a purchase price? What are you going to have to come up with? Somebody in here can do the math. You short $200,000. This ain't hard. It's real basic. So now if I got to give you $200,000 and you just one of the families, what if I end up doing that for 10 families? How much money did I lose? Somebody said it, $2 million gone. How am I going to get my $2 million back? Well, we got the property through political authority. We converted into condominiums through political authority. What if we decide to get our money back through political authority?
Yes.
How are we going to get that $2 million? We going to ask them for $2 million? No. We're going to ask them for zoning rights worth $2 million. Oh, I done lost somebody now.
No.
What is zoning rights? Zoning controls what you can put on a piece of land. What did they do to the folks in Greenwood when they didn't want to build it?
They burned it and rezoned.
They changed the zoning. Because zoning governs what a piece of land is worth. You might buy this piece of land, but you can't just build a skyscraper on it because you bought it. You don't have that kind of juice. In Washington, D.C., you can't build anything that's more than 15 stories high. That's the law. It can't be nothing taller than the Washington Monument. That's actually the law. If it's taller than the Washington Monument, it got to come down. That's why it's so hard and so for people in that city, because the costs are high, because there's only so much property you can build because you can only go so tall. You can't do what you do and build high rises and like you do in Baltimore or New York or just about any other major city in the country. You got a ceiling. It's governed by zoning. So what we were able to do is to say, listen, we bought this building, we're going to give all these families all this money, and politically what we're going to ask the zoning commission to do is give us the ability to increase the height of our building, to increase the floor area ratio of our building. We could even ask to cover a larger area of the lot. But the bottom line is what it means is we can expand the envelope of the building. We're going to make the building bigger. When we have the legal authority to make the building bigger, we can build more units. We build more units, we create more revenue. We create more revenue, we get our $2 million back. Make sense? Acquire, convert, and expand. We're creating equity and we're using political authority along with economics to do this. So I'm going to wrap up because I'll be missing. And that's why you got to walk up on me. And I want to do a Q&A to have a conversation. We don't have to just talk about affordable housing development. No, we can talk about anything. Because we need to understand finance on so many levels. Our personal income statements, our personal balance sheet, our asset protection systems, our tax strategies, our investments in the stock market. We need to understand investments in real estate, entrepreneurship, all this stuff. We need to get it. Insurance, estate plans system.
Okay, so like, I think what I came here for is because I'm kind of tired of, I think I'm a person that is not meant to work for somebody. I hate to say it like that, but I mean, I don't have a problem with authority or whatever, but I don't think I can really work for other people. But what happens when you finally at 35 going on 36 realize how much you damaged yourself credit-wise? How can you rebuild when you barely have the income to pay what you have to pay every month?
That's my question.
And you already in the arrears, like almost $100,000.
How do you rebuild?
From that, how do you start from that?
Well, the best place to start is at the beginning, right? And I see a lot of people who create books of credit, secrets of credit. The secret of credit is pay your bills.
There you go.
That's the big secret of credit. I can write the whole book in one sentence: pay your bills on time.
On time.
Now we can get a little detailed and say, hey, within 30 days they won't count. So you can be late, but don't be more than 30 days late. You should have credit lines, but you don't want to be more than 35% or so extended in those credit lines. There are techniques. I'm not saying don't use the technique. Use the techniques to improve your credit. Okay, you can add credit lines to your credit line. There's a lot that we can do, but obviously, what will help out is more income, right? So we gotta figure out how to bring in more money, and that's why we need to understand entrepreneurship. I would say at the essence is to begin building your own understanding, because I've been there. Bad credit, I've been there, broke, I've been there struggling, but some of the things we're not able to do is think larger than our situations. When I bought my first apartment building, I didn't have the money to buy it. I had like 35 grand to my name, and I had to live off that for 10 months, so I wasn't living high. And I went through a 10-month negotiation to buy that building. But how many of us, when we don't have much money in the bank, can walk up and say, I'll take that for $1 million? Because the only reason that allows you to do that is because you have understanding in your mind. So the more you invest in yourself, I don't know what your pathway is going to be, but I believe that you have the ability to find a path as long as you will first invest in yourself and your understanding. See, lots of people want to be wealthy, want to be successful, but if I say, who wants to be rich? Everybody raises their hand. If I say, who wants us to read Japanese candlestick chart techniques by Steve Nietzsche and become a master of technical analysis, it's not quite the same participation rate. So we all want to be successful, but we don't want to uniquely qualify ourselves to earn that additional income. So if you don't know anything other than what the average person understands, okay, then you essentially don't deserve to earn anything more than the average person earns. And once you understand that, that's just real talk, right? You don't know nothing more, so why should you get more? You get a toilet camera like everybody else. You're going to live in a regular house like everybody else because you're regular. You haven't separated yourself, and you don't deserve to have anything more than what you have. Everything you want in life that you do not have, and this goes for me too. Everything, I want a plane, I want an Embraer Phenom 100, I want a Cessna 68 yacht, and the only reason I don't have it is because I haven't done what it takes to get it. I don't deserve it. When I deserve it, I'll have it. When I do what it takes to get it, I'll have it. And I had a brother, Charles. I saw you earlier. Vernon, I'm sorry. Brother Vernon.
My question is, I heard you talking about Qualcomm and stocks. I have lots of conversations with people about stocks and investing. Could you explain why investing is not gambling?
Well, gambling is pretty much a question of pure luck, right? I'm taking chances, okay? Investing is making a decision. There is an element of risk, but you're making intelligent decisions, qualified decisions with information that you have. Only way you don't have risk is you have a guarantee. Now, whoever's looking for a guarantee, you can raise your hand, but let me tell you what you'll find. A guarantee is a guaranteed loss. Always. Whenever somebody tells me it's guaranteed, I guarantee you're looking at a loss, financially. Okay? So let's say I got a bond, and I say I'm going to guarantee you 4% or 3%. Right? I'll give you a bond, I'm going to guarantee you 3%. That means you put $1,000 in here, I'm going to give you back 3%. What's 3% of $1,000? $30. So you give me $1,000 in a year, I'm going to give you $1,030. I guarantee, right? Guarantee. But the $30 is a capital gain. And capital gain gets taxed. So, wait a minute. So the $30 actually, if it's 20%, it's actually $24. If I get taxed at 20%, I lost $6. So at $1,000 a year later, I got $24, right? Wrong. Because what's the rate of inflation? So if the rate of inflation is 3%, 3.5%, whatever they try to keep it at, because you know they manipulate this thing. So the rate of inflation, which they manipulate, is at 3%. What it says is, in order for you to have the same buying power of $1,000 last year, you need $1,030 this year, and there you are sitting with $1,024. Did you lose money?
Yes.
You lost buying power. Okay, it's a guaranteed loss. The loss comes in different forms, but it's still a guarantee. So I said all that to say, in order to grow and develop, you must engage risk. Where there's greater risk, there's greater opportunity for return. Where there's no risk, you got a guaranteed loss. So what you want to do is mitigate risk. And so when you're investing in the stock market, you are uniquely qualifying yourself by mitigating the risk by doing your research and understanding what's happening and what's going on. And so the stock market is a powerful tool. As a matter of fact, it's the #1 tool for creating capital gains in this country. All the wealthy people, I can tell you, there's two things that they're generally using in this country. The one thing they're using to create capital gain, the most powerful thing, is the stock market. It's the greatest game they got out there. Take $10 and turn it into $20, $20 and turn it into $40, $40 and turn it into $80, and $100 and turn it into $1,000. It's happening in the stock market every day. So don't let anybody scare you away from it and say don't participate. Because if you don't, you are missing out on the #1 capital gain operation in the nation. In the world. Now they're doing global currency. They're trading Forex all over the world. They're creating capital gains. And the #1 source of passive income in this country, sustains more than 80% of millionaires in this country, is real estate. So don't let them tell you there was a real estate bust and real estate is... That's where they got their money at. It's still where they have their money at. And don't you let anybody... You know why real estate is so much a valuable and powerful investment place? The man who made it, Allah, God, ain't making no more. So it's a finite value, finite amount, and so it's limited, and so the stable value is there. Question.
You were talking about TOPA. From living in the District of Columbia, how can you have landlords stop trying to use TOPA and mitigating their cost of quote-unquote increase to put it on to the tenants by raising them and forcing them out? But saying you can't use TOPA rights, but they're using them. How can you?
Well, you understand that TOPA rights are rights that belong to you. They don't belong to landlords. Now, some landlords try to circumvent it, and folks go prosecute them, and some they settle out of court, they take the money and run. Right. By and large, that happens here and there, but generally it does not. I have had landlords, once they understand what I bring to the table, my theory, okay? Because when I'm coming in, I say to the landlord, instead of making your tenant your enemy, don't you understand that your tenant is your friend? Don't you understand that the tenant has the authority and the power politically to unlock more value than you can ever unlock in the open market? So I go to the landlord and say, listen, tell you what, let's partner with me because I'm partnering with the tenant. Give me the property. They'll rock with us. We're going to turn this to condominiums. We're going to give them their big discounts, $150,000, $200,000 off, and we're going to go get the money back from the city through zoning. Rock with me. And you know what I had landlords do after they got it? Because they get it. They were handing me their buildings. I had a landlord call me and say, Rob, I got two 12 units over here off Suitland Parkway. I'll give them to you for $1.8 million. Write me a check for $18,000, and you can start collecting the rent right now, and we'll finance the other 99%. Let's go. Because, see, they didn't understand. When I came in and said, listen, I'm not arguing with you about the price. Because the price for you is 1.8. I'm not worried about 1.8 because I'm working with the people, and the people have the authority to turn this into a $3.6 million property overnight. So I'm not worried about that. I'm not buying what's there. I'm buying what's going to be there. Right. So you worry about what's there. I don't have to worry about that because I got the power of the people. If anything, you might want to be my partner. One of the reasons I was able to buy that first building for $1 million with no money down is because once I showed the plan to the owner, this is how the conversation went. I said, hello, sir, my name is Rob Hall. I am the contract purchaser of your building. And listen, you need to lend me $500,000. First conversation I ever had with him, on the phone, driving on a car. I'll never forget it. He laughed. He said, what y'all do? He said, Mr. Hall, why would I want to lend you $500,000? I said, well, sir, you bought that building for $200,000. You're selling it for $1 million. That means you got $800,000 in capital gains. That means you got about $160,000 in capital gains taxes that I'm sure you don't want to pay. And the only way you're going to get away from that is you're going to do something called a 1031 exchange. And which means you're not going to be able to constructively receive that money. You're going to have an intermediary hold it and reinvest it somewhere. And guess what? Right now, this isn't a great place, a great market for people investing money. This is not a buyer's market. This is a situation where you're only going to get about 5% on your money. So I'm going to offer you 10% on a building that you're well aware of and know a lot about, namely the building that you already own. He said, would you put that in writing, Mr. Hall? He paused for a moment. He said, put that in writing. So I said, no problem. What's your address? I'll come by there. Friday, I dropped that off along with a plan to redevelop his entire building into $16 million worth of condominiums. And he called me on Monday and said, Mr. Hall, not only do I want to lend you $500,000, I want to know how I can be your partner. And in 3 minutes, all praises be to God. In 3 minutes, I told him all the things I wanted him to do. Don't you rent no more than units. I got to pay folks to leave. I got to do all kinds of stuff. If they don't want to buy, there's a lot that goes, do this. Lend me that $500,000. By the way, I'm not going to pay you nothing for 2 years. Need a moratorium on the payments. I'll pay you your $600,000 in 2 years, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I need $250,000. I'll give you half. He said, Mr. Hall, you have a deal. And that's what happened. I bought the building with no money out of my pocket and walked away with $250,000 in cash. Fully in control of a general partnership to own the whole building. Using the authority of the tenants, affecting a benefit to the tenants, affecting a benefit to the owner, and obviously affecting a benefit to myself. But the point is that if we understand economics and we understand techniques and we understand politics, we can do these things. Another question over here.
I heard a sister ask about her personal financial situation. And I know a lot of people have that question in terms of, if I'm in this position now financially, how do I get to the position where I can't take advantage of the information that you're sharing? How do I do that? And I think the number one problem we have in our community is knowledge, is having that information, real information for real people who are trying to make a real change happen in their financial lives. So are there resources that you can refer the people here today to transform themselves financially, that are real solid solutions for the credit situation they're in right now, for the financial, some real answers for how to transition from their present situation to where they need to be in order to take advantage of information that someone like yourself is.
Sorry. Thank you for that question. That almost seemed like a plan. Because then I get to talk about my book. No, thank you for that question. Seriously, it really boils down to information and understanding, as you just said. You know, it's because of lack of knowledge that we suffer, that we don't prosper. And so that really is
Such
the
a
first
good
thing
woman.
for us wanting to know what to do. I think start investing right here. Now, I have a book called The Principles. Should be available right now, but I'm just going to be honest and tell you it is not immediately available. But, Stephanie, where should she send email to get information about when we're going to get this thing done?
Put me on the spot. Hall Street Team at Gmail?
Hall Street Team at Gmail?
Yeah.
Really?
Which one?
Okay, Topa Fund. Let's do TopaFund.com. If you will email your information to TopaFund.com. Info at TopaFund.com, and we're going to respond to you with, everybody who's here, say that, let me know that you were here, and I will send you a free, when this comes out, a free digital copy of the book. Okay? Free digital copy for everyone that's here. That puts the pressure on me because I got to go ahead and produce this and get this thing out the door. Okay.
I need
Topa Fund info at topafund.com.
Everybody.
Info at topafund.com. So you understand, I'm not here trying to make money off folks. We're here about trying to share information. And my sisters are here. Look at one of my sisters. Actually, my other sister Dee had a question earlier.
There's a sign-in sheet with email addresses, I was just going to say.
Oh, there's a sign-in sheet with email. Okay, so we can email you guys too. If you don't email me, I'll email you. But Devon, we are out of time. We out of time. I appreciate all the questions and our participation. My sole goal as a speaker, is to simply not be the expert because I don't know everything. I spend a lot of time, but to be a fantastic facilitator of conversations that need to be had. These are not conversations that should be had or ought to be had. They need to be had more often in our community. I thank y'all for coming out, participating, and give yourselves a hand for coming out here on Saturday.
Let's give Brother Rob a round of applause.
Keep recording.
This is one of the benefits
I don't know how you
that
stop
we
it.
have home building.